Okay, AP Literature friends. So last night, true confession, I think like many of you, it's test prep season, and I'm in kind of panic mode a little bit with some of my students that just aren't grasping the general idea of how to construct and articulate a thesis statement for FRQ1 and FRQ2. No matter how many poems and short stories we've read this year, they're just not able to really parcel out the greater pith and the juice of what they need to within terms of their interpretation. And last night I'm tossing and turning in sleep, and I was like, oh, I have not seen the Oscar nominated shorts yet that the New Yorker has put out. And I wonder if they're on YouTube. And since I couldn't sleep, I was like, all right, I'm going to check a couple out because I do use these shorts a lot in my lesson planning, especially for my creative writing students. And then bingo, boom, lightning, instantaneous lesson plan came. I said, why not use the Oscar nominated shorts to solidify writing introductions for FRQ1 and FRQ2? So you're taking a look at my lesson plan that I actually did today and my students' work after spending about 60 minutes with me. So the film that is featured for this particular writing workshop, it's called Post It, and it's by Michael Evans. So just go into YouTube and type in Post It by Michael Evans and you'll find it. I could even put the link in the Facebook post probably if you want me to. And for this, I'll just run you through the activity and ultimately just demonstrate for you how my students manipulate my template of the inverted and declarative thesis to house their thesis, all right, so that they come out of the gates blazing strong. So just a little caveat, I always say this, that it's my essential question. What if we taught composition like Bob Ross teaches painting? I've had to model this exhaustively for my students this year in order to get the type of writing that you're going to see in just a little bit. So I think the bulk of my students are okay headed into the exam. They're pretty much at the mercy of whatever text the College Board throws at them. As far as their writing goes, I'm not all that concerned about it. We've been using the same template since September 7th. It's just some of my students get duped by the poem and the shorter text for FRQ2. So if it's really dense and tricky and slippery, then scores might not be so good. So you're going to see a couple of my exemplars and models in here as well. And you're going to see some of my students. So one of the things I always tell teachers when I work with them is this: you got to Bob Ross your instructions. So get up there at the easel and paint with your students. So during this exercise, I actually positioned myself as the expert writer in the classroom and wrote with my students. I showed them how to basically dissect the film and arrive at a thesis statement, right? As if we were writing FRQ1s and FRQ2s. So the question we immediately ask ourselves is this: how do I construct the introductory paragraph? A huge contender that if we equip our kids with good, accessible, workable templates, the writing process will be demystified. Otherwise, you're going to get kind of a crapshoot of things, I think, in terms of the introductory paragraph. You might get the 1-sentence introduction. You might get the 11-sentence introduction without a thesis statement. You might get the 1-block paragraph. You might get, quotes in your introduction. They'll be all over the place. So with my template, I just want a nuts and bolts, good, clear, articulate thesis statement that's very dynamically expressed out of the gate. So I give my guys two options. They can declare the thesis or invert the thesis. But for those of you that are familiar with my work, you know that for literary analysis, my guys always invert. I reserve the declarative for rhetorical analysis And then synthesis, persuasion, argument, research is a 50-50 split between the declarative and the inverted. So, all right. Implicit in every prompt that the College Board ever puts out to kids for FRQ1 and FRQ2. And whenever we task them with performing literary analysis, no matter what our prompt says, implicitly we're asking our students to do two things. Answer the question, what is the authorial intent, and how does the author construct meaning? If our students can answer those two questions, then they are golden. So here's how my students do this. We watch the movie, all right, Post-it by Michael Evans. I had these two questions on the whiteboard. What is the authorial intent, and how does the author construct meaning? At this stage of the game, my students know that they have to answer those questions in order to get a good, juicy, delicious thesis statement. So that's what we're looking for. So I know some of you guys talk about universal themes. I think I've seen in the Facebook groups. This is how my guys do it. So in terms of the declarative, which again we're not doing for this, you begin with the thesis. Just boom, immediately, succinctly, drop it like it's hot. Drop the thesis as succinctly, concisely as possible. So from there, you want to flesh it out with context and background. And again, those that are familiar with my work, you know that I'm big on tier 2 level vocabulary. I want my guys to have a nice academic pizzazz to their writing. So you'll see my students have your good, average, run-of-the-mill SAT level words. So we've done a very exhaustive word study academy this year, and most of my kids have augmented their vocabs nicely, and I can definitely talk about that at some other point in time. And then sentence constructs to teach voice rhythm flow. My students know how to manipulate their syntax fairly well, and we borrow the idea from Strunk and White in their textbook that they published called Write It Right, that there are ostensibly 12 ways to write a single sentence. So you're going to see my students hopefully wield some complexity for their voice, their rhythm, their flow, their constructs, their syntax, and then the shebang. Every introduction is always 4 sentences long. So in terms of what my students did for this exercise was they inverted the thesis. So in this case, it's just the opposite. You're going to end with the thesis. So you can begin with context, background, hook, analogy. Right? You can begin that way. Same concept though. Tier 2 level vocab I want to see present. Good manipulation of the sentence constructs, and exactly 4 sentences. So here's how it works. The very first 3 sentences of an inverted thesis are going to answer the question, what is the authorial intent? So I'll say that again. First 3 sentences. What is the authorial intent? And I know some of you might say, what is the universal theme? It doesn't matter. So I want my guys to really cushion that and articulate it and parcel that out in 3 sentences. Last sentence, 4th sentence, thesis statement. How does the author construct meaning? So I want to hear something about the terms and devices in there. So, all right, let's take a look here. So this student approached it this way. It has been said that no one is never useless in this world when they are actively engaged in lightening the burdens of another. And that's like the ha-ha moment, right? That's the whole purpose of the film. Bingo, B-I-N-G-O. What is the authorial intent? So this kid's got it, right? Just express it immediately. So look where they go from here. To some extent, therefore, the key to happiness and well-being is in living life to do good for others. Spreading joy by being of service to others is in many ways the purpose of a happy life. And then in the last sentence, how does the author construct meaning? Articulate it, drop the terms, drop the devices. And so we get into a little bit of film as literature here as well, but it's all good. You do the same thing with poetry, do the same thing with short stories. and excerpts. Michael Evans conveys these ideas through the development and contrast of his protagonist and the symbolic value of the post-it note. So there you just drop the terms. So that's how student A manipulated my template of the inverted thesis. Here's student 2. In many regards, the central message is analogous to that of most world religions. To be happy, one needs to shed the ego and all of its unnecessary baggage. All too often, happiness eludes an individual because they are so focused on the self. But as the film notes, when one's focus shifts from the sole purpose of spreading joy, the initial actor also sees an increase in happiness. All right. So you may be smart and ask yourself, Christian, where'd the lit terms go? And oh, my friends, this is the conundrum that the College Board needs to figure out. So to have the lit terms there or not to have the lit terms there. I'm on the fence on this as well. With my real struggling emerging students that sometimes get through the introduction and it's like, hey, dude, where's your thesis? I'm like, expressly state them, like sample number 1. My students that have a good knack and alacrity with articulating their theses subtly and with nuance, I'm like, it's up to you. If you want to do it, do it. Really, all you need to do is answer the question, what is the authorial intent? And then those of you that are familiar with my work, when you get into the syllogistic body paragraphs, that first premise, that's where the lit terms can go. So and I'll do videos on that down the road too. So there's tons of stuff in YouTube. It's not the purpose of this video to get into that now. That's the question, to have the lit term or not to have the lit term. So I guess it's a matter of teacher preference. The College Board has not articulated anything definitively on that as far as I know. Here's sample 3. Getting caught in the maelstrom of self-negativity is easy to do. And again, bingo, the big salient moment. So like, why did this dude make this film? What's his point? What can end this cycle, however, is trying to be of service of others. When one is feeling terrible, spreading joy to someone else can be the trick to bring about a positive transformation. Michael Evans conveys this idea through the dichotomous relationship of his two principal characters and the symbolism of the post-it note. So this student included the terms at the end. How does the author construct meaning? So in my templates, it doesn't really matter where they go. I tell the students, you're professional writers at this stage of the game. You're taking an exam in a couple of days. Like make some choices. Be definitive, be assertive, be confident, to drop or not to drop. Here's one more. Doing good deeds deadens one's own burdens. And again, that's it. That's the haha moment. That's the epiphany, right? That's the eureka moment of watching this movie, right? That's what Michael Evans wants us to take away. That's the gist. That's the thesis statement. In many regards, it's like the law of attraction in that negativity begets negativity while positivity seeks its likeness. For whatever the reason, getting out of self with the purpose of spreading joy seems to bring about more joy. In his short film Post-it, Michael Evans illustrates this point through the transformation of his protagonist and the symbolic nature of the messages left on each note. So they drop the terms and devices, construction of meaning, fourth sentence. So no, all of these are 4 sentences. I haven't talked about the vocab, but you can hear it. I don't want my kids sounding like goons or pretentious, Princeton professors, anything like that. Keep it in their wheelhouse. But the vocab's up, and these kids can get mildly tricky with their syntax. So all of these are fairly decent. Here's one last one, a real simple one. This kid struggled, but I'll show it to you. It's simple math. To be happy, one must subtract the self. Holy profound. I love that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. All too often, people brood upon all of life's woes and impose their own misery. And in many regards, it's a vicious cycle. To find true happiness, one must sacrifice this indulgence and put the focus on the benefit of others. So this student chose not to have the lit terms in there. And again, to have the lit term or not to have the lit term, 'tis the question. No matter what, it's going to be 4 sentences. Focus on those sentence constructs, authorial intent every single time. So yeah, good practice. I mean, we did this just with Post-it, this film Post-it, and probably tomorrow I would like to do a couple more short films, and I'll record it and put it in the Facebook groups after class before the weekend. I know we're almost out of time before the exam, but this seems like the most pressing need for my students. So anyways, in terms of the irons that I have in the fire, so know that I'm doing a lot of webinars coming up here soon. So I've got some with the National Writing Project. As some of you know, Tim Freitas, Brandon Abden, and I are presenting at the National Council of Teachers of English in the fall together. So you're getting a glimpse of my work. And, I teach some masterminds, some PDs, and have self-paced course that go over my templates, my alternative grading methods, and all the methods of my madness. So if you want more information on that, you can go to teachinghowtowrite.com. I have a website. And if you want the slides that are featured right here before you right now, drop me an email at teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com, and I will send those off to you as soon as possible, because I know that there's not a lot of test prep time left for us. So be well. I hope this helps, and happy teaching, happy writing, happy test prepping.